1991. This is the first in our series of tapes on athletics in Washington County, and in it we will cover high school athletics, the semi-pros, many of the people who coached in the county, and many of the amateur athletics, and we will also interview people who went on from Washington County to play college and professional athletics. Today, our first person to interview is Mr. A.D. Britton, who was a coach at Milry High School and later a principal there. So, Mr. A.D. Britton.
Mr. Blackwell, in 1942, Mr. Cletus Green, who was principal of Milry High School at that time, come out to my house to hire me to come to Milry to coach. I was happy to do it because it was a little step up from serving as principal of Aquila Elementary School. I arrived on the scene at Milry High School in 1942. I was 29 years old then, and I was hired to come to Milry High School to coach. And I mean literally to coach. I did classroom teaching in addition to that, but I coached all sports at Milry High School all the time that I was here, right by myself. I coached football during football season. I coached basketball during basketball season. I coached baseball during baseball season. And we didn't have track at that particular time, but we had girl basketball at that time. And after the first year, Mr. Green started me to coaching girl basketball. And we had some of the finest girl basketball teams in Washington County that was ever assembled anywhere. We had several people who played on semi-pro teams. Mr. Theodore Pearson was one of the early coaches. Had a team of girls from Chatham, Funsia Reed and the Sponner girl and the Wilkins girls at Chatham, and Georgine Underdump played on Mr. Pearson's team, and they was playing out of Mobile, but they went all kind of national tournaments and everything. Now that's the girl basketball. Mr. Joe Palmer, who was principal at Leroy High School, was also the girls' coach in basketball. Mr. Joe didn't coach the boys, but he coached the girls. And Mr. Joe had some battle royals in the girl basketball. We really went into that girl basketball in a big way. And Mr. Joe, I'll have to say, most of the time prevailed until the last year we had a girl basketball team. I wore him out that year. I had some of the better girl basketball players that's ever played basketball in Washington County. And that particular year we had a team that won 25 out of 26 basketball games. Now back to the teams at that particular time in athletics, which will be a surprise to you coaches and a lot of you boys that's playing football now. We didn't have single A and double A and triple A and 4A and 5A. We was all A. A1 or A6, whatever you want to call us. We all played one another. We played Grove Hill, Jackson, Thomasville, Butler, Silas, Robertsdale, Foley, Baker, even played Murphy High a few games. You name it, we played all of them. And at Milry High School, we always had a winning football season. I don't know during the time that I coached here, I don't believe we ever had a losing season in football. We had some real good ball players here, like they had in all the schools in Washington County. Chatham had some good football teams. back, I think about it now, I had the Browns up here, quite a few of the Browns, and at Chatham they had the Kimbroughs and the Masses. They played in herds down there, the Masses and the Kimbroughs and the Turners and what have you at Chatham, and they had some great ball players down there. So quite a few of them went on to play college ball. Mr. Zach Dees had two boys who were real good ball players and baseball and football both, and they got college scholarships. We had the Browns, T.J. Brown, who later becomes one of our members of the Board of Education, weighed 128 pounds when he was playing guard for me. I never shall forget, we went to York to play York one night, and the referee was getting ready to start the game, and the referee told him, said, "Son, you're not going to play, are you?" TJ told him, says, "Hell, just watch me and see." He weighed 128 pounds, but he was one of the fastest men. He'd tackle the men in the backfield before they ever got to the line of scrimmage. And I recall playing Chatham and at Silas. We didn't have a lighted field, and Chatham didn't have a lighted field when I started coaching. And we had to play our night games at Silas if we played in it. Silas had a lighted field, but 1 or 2 years they didn't have a coach. And when World War II started, they lost their coach. Mr. Kennedy come down here and tried to get me to go to Silas to coach, and I wouldn't leave Mildred, but they let us play quite a few of our night games up there, and we play our night games in Silas. We played Butler in Silas one night. Chatham in Silas one night, and Big John Kimbrough. If you didn't know Big John from Chatham, you missed a treat. He was about a 210-pound fullback. He gained his weight in torment, I think, his length. In torment, you couldn't stop him. And seeing little Thiessen Brown weighed 135 pounds tackling. But Thiessen would tackle a bear. All the Browns would. I could start a whole Brown team in athletics at Mildred. And I want to go back and mention about our equipment. Our shoes were always old, and some of the boys didn't have helmets. They'd have to get somebody else's helmet when they'd go to take somebody's place. Our uniforms were, you might say, downright pitiful. We didn't have any money much, and no way to get it. We charged, most we ever charged for football games at Mildred High School in my 20 years as principal was $1 for adults and 50 cents for students. At Fruitdale, they didn't have football for a long time. It was started, I believe even just before I retired, before football was started at Fruitdale. Leroy had a good football team, and they had some good coaches over there. I had John D. Simpson coach over there some, Jack McMillan coached over there. Chatham had some real good coaches back down through the ages. After I quit coaching, I was making the whole amount of $70 a year supplement, and I got Mr. Pearson to relieve me of that job and let me go home and do my farming and tend to my cows and things. And we hired about a half a dozen coaches, and we didn't do too well. And later on, we hired Eddie Godman. Eddie come out of the University of Southern Mississippi, a young fella, winking his eyes and get terribly excited, but he was quite a coach. He was a communicator, get along with the boys, and he literally filled Mildred High School halls up with trophies in his 10 years here. And after being with me 10 years, he left here and went to Smith Station to coach for my nephew, T.C. Britton, over there, and compiled one of the top records in the state of Alabama at Smith Station. And at Chatham, they had some fellas that come in there and had a strong program. Had a fella, Paul Davis, built them a strong athletic program at Chatham, and it was stronger than Miller and Leroy for several years. But sooner or later, their players begin to run out. We people that coaches, we call it running out of blood. Some folks just don't have the blood to play sports, and some has, and some of them are great competitors, and some of them are not. They play just to say they play it. But a lot of people play for the love of the game, and we got to where we didn't have a lot of ability. Chatham got that way once or twice. Leroy got that way several times. At the present time, this generation that we in today, Chatham is along the low limb in athletics down there in football. They have a weak football team. Miller's back up, has strong this year. Leroy has been pretty strong now for several years. McIntosh High School is up and down. Hidget always had a good athletic program at McIntosh when he was there. And North Central never did have a football team. They had already integrated North Central, and boys went over and played football over at Chatham High School over there. But anyway, we had some good athletes in the county. I had from Miller High School Frank Morris Brown, and went to the University of Southern Mississippi on football scholarships. Both of them made the Hall of Fame at the University of Southern Mississippi in athletics. And Robert Lee Dearman had a scholarship. Quite a few of our boys had scholarships, Bears and Sunday places. Chatham the same way, and Leroy had the big boy that played at Alabama, is playing pro ball now, was such a good football player.
Emmanuel King.
What?
Emmanuel King.
Emmanuel King from Leroy played for Bear Bryant. And they've had several real outstanding athletes from Leroy to go to college and play play college football. And we had, in Millbury, we had the McCains who were real good ball players, but we had a lot of boys who were real outstanding high school athletes, but they were just not large enough to play college ball. And at the present time, it's a lot harder for boys in high school now to play college football. They're such huge boys now. Colleges won't look at a boy, a lineman, if you don't weigh at least 220 to 300 pounds, they don't want to look at it. You had to be large, and we just don't grow big boys at Millbury. Never have had any real large boys at Millbury. Don't have any real large boys at Chatham. They've had several boys that got to be pretty good size in the last few years, but we've had some real good athletes that just ordinarily could have played college football several years ago, but the present trend now is big boys, and you got to be big to play.
What can you tell us about the history of the stadium that we call Wildcat Hill?
Well, I'd rather you hadn't mentioned, Mr. Blackwell wanted me to mention about Wildcat Hill. When I come here in 42, they had Wildcat Hill over there, and that's what they had. It was a hill. And to get over to Wildcat Hill there, you had to cross the swamp down here, and you crossed it on a little bridge. And the children used to play in the creek down there and catch crawfish, snakes, and you name it down there. And then over on the other side of the creek there, they had what we have called the parking lot. Over there, this side of the ball field. Well, in 19 and it stayed that way from the time that I arrived here, for 13 years, I ate mud and dirt and sand and gravel, played on the baseball field over there and football field and everything for the 13 years that I was here just teaching and coaching. If you ever go to Miller, Wildcat Hill, next time you go, look at the pine trees standing just outside of the fence, football field there. I trimmed those trees up as switches in 1943 and 44 with some of the Brown boys from Barlow. Those trees are right about 50 years old now, standing on the hill there. And after I was employed as principal of Miller High School, I vowed if I ever had a chance I'd do something other about the field over there. But I was selected as principal in '55. In the summer of 1956, I borrowed Robert Anderson's tractor. And the 4th day of July in 1956, I had got Mr. Cyrus Loper, who was our supervisor at that time, our commissioner, to put us some black soil on top of the football field over there. He dug out of Mr. Sam Blunt's fish pond across the creek over here going toward Corbin. And I got Mr. Max Adams to spread that dirt out there, and I got Mr. Robert Anderson's tractor, and I disted it and drug it down around and sowed grass seed on that field on the 4th day of July in 1956. When I arrived, there wasn't a house on the field over there. We dressed down in the dressing room under the high school building here. There wasn't a concession stand over there. There wasn't a thing on the hill. And I first carried even one of the old outdoor toilets over there was one of my first concession stands. And by the way, it may still be standing there, the first one you go at the gate. And I started to work on that thing. I built a fence around it. And then I built the bleachers on our home side over there. Built bleachers, but we didn't have bleachers on the home side. I had them all on the visitor side. That was on the side there was any bleachers on to start with for a number of years. Then later on, I got the County Board of Education to build the bleachers, present bleachers. It's on the home side there. And I built a little concession stand there. And several years later then, I built a dressing room over there for the boys. I built had a baseball field over there and put up the backstop and all that, and had a little dugout over there for the boys on the hill there. I built everything that's on that hill, on Wildcat Hill. And again, that's another one of the things that I have always sort of been a little bit peeved about. Mr. Palmer stayed at Leroy, and he built him a field over there in his Palmer Stadium. McIntosh, Mr. Hilliard Wiggin, stayed down there, and he built him a football field down there and fixed it in it's Wiggins Field down there. Miller High School, I built everything on it, and it's still Miller Wildcat Hill, and I have never been considered, I don't know of, about any name about it. But I want to tell all of you that I built everything that's on that hill, sowed the first grass, and built the visitors' bleachers, and everything that's on that football field. I built it, and I'm glad that I built it, and I'm glad it's there, and I hope all of you enjoy it for a long time.
Can you tell us some of the other coaches who have coached here that you can remember through the years?
Yeah, Miller High School had quite a few coaches here. Eddie Godman coached me. I had Jimmy Moore, who's one of the nicest fellas that I've ever known, was Jimmy Moore. He coached here for me 2 or 3 years, and then went to Chatham and coached Chatham had Ed Boggs, the great Ed Boggs that come from Pine Hill. Ed whipped a lot of people to coaching. I had Jimmy War over here, and then after Jimmy left, we had, I believe Bobby took his place, Bobby Carpenter. We've had, he coached football then for a long time, several years. Bobby had real good football teams, and I think if you check the record, Bobby had good many more wins than he had losses, and I still consider him to be one of the top baseball coaches in the state of Alabama. We had basketball coaches. We have had several basketball coaches, and I really haven't kept up with the basketball since I left here, and I don't know what the basketball record in Milroy High School is. But before that, we had Obar coached here for several years, and we had Mitchell Smith, who played ball at University of Southern Mississippi and played a little pro ball. And by the way, Mitchell, I followed Mitchell Smith here when I come here. I followed Mitchell Smith as coach at Milroy High School when I come here. And after that, I had 2 or 3 coaches before. I had Eddie Godwin, but none of them had a very good record.
Who coached you when you played here that year?
Gladstone Jones from Wayne County was my high school coach at Milroy that year. P.P. Flanagan, who lives in Buckatonic, served 43 years in the coaching and teaching profession. Lives at Buckatonic now. He was my high school coach. And by the way, Mr. Blackwell, I would like to tell people this. A lot of people don't know it. Some people do. I was given a scholarship to play football at the University of Alabama under Frank Thomas. I recommended Lowell Tew to Frank Thomas when he was coaching there, and he come down here to see me and went to Waynesburg to see Lowell Tew play. And Lowell, he come back by here and told me, said he believed Lowell would make a good guard, but he believed he might be too slow to play in the backfield. He had played us and beat us single-handedly, 2 years hand running, and was one of the top football players that I ever saw in this country. And that he had the fast boy from New York down there that year, Frank Thomas had. And the first day of practice, he had a foot race out there, and Lowell Tew outran everybody he had on the football field. And he played right halfback for him. The 4 years that he was there, he was a starter his freshman year through his senior year, played several games in the Rose Bowl. I think played in the Pro Bowl every year that he was at the University of Alabama. That was Lowell Tew. Now I want to tell you about the scholarship that I had at the University of Alabama. You said, well, fool, why didn't you stay up there? I never shall forget it. I went up there to visit that summer, and I stayed up there about a week. I never did go to football practice. But while I was there, the 2 great All-Americans, Pootie Hubert and Johnny Mack Brown, were both visiting up at the University of Alabama that summer, and I saw both of them and visited. Well, the main reason that I didn't go to the University of Alabama, there wasn't any money. And I had never had any money, but I had always been more or less on an equal par anywhere that I had ever been, and I was just afraid that I couldn't stand to be at the University of Alabama without a dime in my pocket. And I come home and went to Daphne State Teachers College.
Well, I appreciate your time taken on this tape. Thank you.